Bringing war on the workers. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
We turn now to labor news. As a strike by 45,000 Verizon workers approaches the 2-week mark, the company's customers are beginning to feel the impact on its services. Consumers are reporting significant delays in booking Verizon technicians to fix and install landline telephone, internet, and cable television services. Verizon's Senior Vice President for Consumer and Mass Business Markets, Christopher Krieger, tried to downplay the strike's efficacy. Krieger told the New York Times, quote, "The vast majority of our customers are not seeing any impact." Verizon officials acknowledged, however, that they had declined any new orders for the first 2 weeks of the strike so they could focus on serving their existing customers.
The strike was called after Verizon pushed for the workers to accept far-reaching concessions, including a pension freeze and fewer sick days. The company also asked workers to contribute far more toward their health coverage. Meanwhile, Verizon made $22.5 billion in profits over the past 4.5 years and has paid its top 5 CEOs $258 million also in the past 4 years. Verizon's tried to step up pressure on the strikers by saying it'll cut off their medical, dental, and optical benefits on August 31st. Union representatives have described the new threat as a scare tactic and avowed to continue fighting. This is Bob Masters, spokesperson for Communications Workers of America.
You know, this is typical in a lengthy strike. We're prepared for it. We have procedures in place to ensure that all of our members' health care needs will be taken care of. And if Verizon thinks that this is going to intimidate anybody, it just really isn't going to work.
To talk about the Verizon strike and the state of jobs in America, we're joined by Stephen Greenhouse. He's a labor and workplace reporter for the New York Times who's written extensively about the Verizon strike and other labor disputes. He's also the author of The Big Squeeze, Tough Times for the American Worker. Welcome to Democracy Now!, Steve.
Nice to be here. Nice to be here.
So your latest article is talking about the impact on customers and consumers of Verizon of the strike.
In a labor confrontation like this, typically management tries to say the strike isn't having much of an effect. It's hardly affecting customers. The union says because 45,000 people have walked out, a whole lot of people, the largest strike in 4 years, it's really affecting customers. I have a story in today's New York Times where I quote several customers saying, they face big delays in getting landlines fixed and getting new services installed, and that seems to show that the company might be exaggerating when it says that it really is having minimal effect. The strike is in many ways a classic confrontation. The company, though it's quite profitable, in ways wants to take advantage of the weak economy and is really trying to wrest some far-reaching concessions from the union. The union says, wait a second, this company's so profitable, why in the world are you trying to get all these concessions? The company says, you 45,000 workers who are on strike are in this less successful traditional landline division that's not as profitable, so they argue we need you to agree to numerous concessions to help remain competitive and to help improve profitability in the division. Again, the union says, wait, the overall company, not just the traditional landline division, but the Verizon wireless division are extremely profitable, and they say that the company is trying to, assault the middle class and is following a low-road policy that the unions involved, say, many other employers have engaged in to weaken unions and to cut wages and benefits.
We certainly know here at Democracy Now! In trying to fix some lines, we were just given a date of fix, and our lines are critical to what we do as a communications company, of September 14th. This is a month from now.
Well, and this issue of the landline division being not as profitable, because we're not talking it's losing money. It's just not it's about 10%, 9% profit on the landline division. But that landline division also includes Verizon's new video service, Fios, which is obviously they had to spend a lot of money to invest in it to get it going, but it's also rapidly growing. And of course, the unions are saying the potential down the line for Fios and the landline division of Verizon is enormous. It's just that it's not making quite as much profit right now as the wireless phones are.
No, you're right, Juan. The two sides have very different narratives. The company keeps saying the landline division is struggling. It doesn't talk so much about its very promising Fios division, which is, Verizon has invested, billions and billions of dollars in laying fiber optic cable for cable and internet services for millions of homeowners. And so in ways, the outlook for the landline division is looking up. And the union says, don't forget that company. You know, it's not just, you know, the traditional home landlines that are part of this division. We also help build Fios. And moreover, the unions keep saying that the wireless division relies heavily on the old copper wire systems in the ground that helps transmit, you know, the many calls going between towers. And they say it's wrong for the company to just look at one phase of its operation. They say it's one connected entity, and that the union should not be penalized just because the traditional home phone segment isn't doing as well as it used to do.
Stephen Greenhouse, how significant is this strike?
I think this is quite a big strike, quite an important strike. You know, the Communication Workers of America, which is on strike along with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, you know, the CWA is one of the most sophisticated unions in the country in terms of mobilizing its shop stewards, getting people out on the picket lines, really educating its members. When I interview rank-and-file people here, they really know their stuff. I mean, I've covered a lot of strikes, but these people are really well informed. What's hard for the union is it's not clear, you know, it's not a highly visible strike like a baseball strike or a subway strike or the UPS strike a few years back. So I think it's been hard for the unions to really capture public's attention to pressure the companies. But you know, if Verizon succeeds in winning these major concessions against, you know, these two fairly powerful, quite sophisticated unions, that will be another blow to organized labor. But if the CWA and the IB and the electrical workers are able to prevent the concessions, then labor can say, see, we've helped stop this low road trend where companies are trying to, you know, take away, you know, reduce wages and take away benefits.
And speaking of blows to organized labor, the situations out in the Midwest, obviously we've covered extensively what's been happening in Wisconsin and Ohio, and recently now the Republican governor of Ohio has blinked on the attempts to strike out at the labor movement in Ohio, and your sense of what's going on in Ohio right now and its importance in terms of this ongoing assault.
You know, Governor Walker in Wisconsin, you know, got a lot of attention for pushing through legislation to, you know, eviscerate collective bargaining in his state. But in many ways, Governor John Kasich in Ohio pushed through a law that was even tougher towards unions. So the unions have really gotten their act together, and they are pushing a repeal effort for this November to, you know, have, you know, Ohioans vote to repeal the law. And I think Kasich sees that he's probably going to lose that vote. That's going to be very embarrassing to him and the Republicans. So he's kind of sued for peace. And if you know Kasich, he's a very tough guy. So for him to say we really need to negotiate to try to find a compromise to prevent the repeal vote, I think that shows that he fears it's going down, and he worries that if the repeal vote wins, it's going to really hurt the Republicans in 2012.
Steve Greenhouse of the New York Times, thanks so much for being with us. That does it for our show. DemocracyNow.org is our website. I'm Amy Goodman.